Hey, it's Jordan.
And Jen?
If you don't know, Jen's my business partner, getting status Coup off the ground. We're up here doing businessy things. We had a very, very long meeting the other day with the attorney who is setting up our business. So today we're doing a little, what are we doing? Interview.
Yeah, it's a little interview. Actually, we got a lot of requests from people wanting to know how you got into journalism, tips for how they can get into, how they can start investigating and reporting in their area. Journalism students write you, professors write you. A lot of people just want to know.
Professors write you?
Yeah,
Really?
they
Oh.
do. Yeah. I filter.
The only university that writes me is trying to get me to pay my loan back, which I have deferred quite a lot. Journalism.
Here.
So basically, let me start with my advice to journalists. Forget everything you're taught at these bullshit colleges by these bullshit old men and women who have a dinosaur definition of journalism.
Yeah.
I was taught the same things, but I just never really believed it, honestly. I never believed that, every story has two sides. I never believed that you have to make sure, you're neutral and, you present both sides, because that's not really journalism or truth-telling. That's kind of just like stenography. So when the New York Times says, well, these people say climate change isn't real, and these people say the planet's going to be gone in 10 years, we're neutral, but we've showed you both sides, so our job is done. That's not truth-telling. That's not exposing anything. That's just basically regurgitating lies, and it's called faux balance. It's called faux balance. Of course, some stories do have two sides. Some stories have 10 sides, but every story is different. So that's number one. I think that too often, especially in journalism school, they teach you at all costs show both sides. No, sometimes people are lying, and it's your job as a journalist to say you're lying. I mean, just with Trump, all these outlets are so afraid just to say he's a liar. I mean, you see the New York Times and these places kind of like bending over backwards to say, well, this is, it's not exactly true. And blah, 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 blah. No, he's lying. So is Obama on many things. I mean, that's number one. Number two, there is no such thing as a neutral, unbiased journalist. You are biased just in what you decide to cover. What you decide to cover as a journalist shows what you prioritize or what you think is important. So, as a journalist, that's another thing that we need to break. Don't follow what your professors or your father is telling you. My father told me you're supposed to be more unbiased, Jordan. No. People want to know who the person is that are reporting information. They want to know up front what is their biases, so I, as a result, can take what they're saying either with a grain of salt or take it as, okay, this is where he stands now, is what he's saying backed up by facts. For example, when I was on the campaign trail, I covered Bernie a lot. I was very open on camera. I support Bernie. I'm voting for Bernie. But it didn't affect the reports that I did. I had facts to back up things. Same thing at Standing Rock. I was there to report and hopefully stop that pipeline. But if I saw a water protector shoot a cop, I'd be the first one to report it, even if the water protectors didn't want me to. So that's just journalism. So I think my first advice is don't listen to what the old dinosaurs tell you. My second advice, if you want to get into journalism, you got to make a fundamental decision. Are you willing to make absolutely nothing at first? Because that's probably what's going to happen. I was making $10 an article that I wrote back in the day and probably getting 5 articles a month. I took a $25,000 pay cut several years ago to go from corporate news digital production, so being a producer at MSNBC, to being a writer for a blog. I mean, I went into debt, but in a strange way, that choice led me to the Young Turks, and it's led me to now. So you got to decide whether you're willing to do this at great sacrifice, and you also have to survive if you are willing to be attacked, if you are willing to be demonized, if you were willing to be lied about, you have to decide, like, how thick is your skin? And if it's not thick, you got to make it thick real quick.
Yeah, a lot of people might not realize that you, obviously, you're known for reporting on Flint, and you have had people who are involved in that you're reporting on personally attack you online, in video, in writing, so attacking you just for reporting. And people obviously believe those lies and spread those lies, and it's and sometimes it can get dangerous. You were followed and tracked in cars at Standing Rock, and so talking about having the thick skin, did you always?
Well, I mean, I'm human. It's not like I was like, come to me. I'm Sylvester Stallone and Rambo. Like, I get scared too, but yeah.
But, so I think like you're naturally more unafraid, but were you always was your skin always this thick?
No, I was a spineless fucking piece of shit in my early 20s. I should have left corporate media like within 5 minutes, but I needed the health insurance, and I was afraid to jump out of my box. Like, no, there's nothing very special about me. It's just, as I went on in my 20s and as I went on in my life, kind of a switch went off at like, it's now or never. I don't want to keep waking up and going through the motions. I want my life and my profession to mean something, and that's different. Everybody's different. Like my younger brother, God bless him, could give a shit if he was, a janitor for the rest of his life. No offense to janitors. If he made a lot of money doing it, he only cares about money. So everyone's different. I love him, like we get along, but everybody's priorities are different. For me personally, it's never been. I would be happier creating change and delivering whatever justice I could deliver than being a millionaire. To me, when you do the right thing and you cover things the right way, and you cover people that are being ignored, and you cover communities that are being ignored, like the money will come. The money that I need to survive and take a vacation once in a while and have a family one day, that'll come. I'm not so worried about that. But yeah, no, I wasn't always that way. Even before I was at the Young Turks, I was definitely more naive and more capital D Democratic Party. I used to love Obama before I learned a lot of more stuff. So I wasn't always that way, but yeah, I'm definitely that way now.
Yeah, well, and so what a lot of people don't realize also is that you've turned down jobs that were journalism jobs, and good ones, and ones many people would strive for a decade or more to achieve, and you turned them down. And I think people also don't realize you didn't really make great money at TYT. So
No.
These offers, to put it mildly, these offers were pretty extraordinary for your age, and it's because, they saw that you were breaking stories and things like that. So when we talk a lot about journalists, the corporate media folk who basically have sold their souls. So how, we assume that these journalism students or people who want to get into this don't want to sell their souls. So how and why have you not?
I'll give you an example. So in August of 2016, so I guess, what is that? I was at TYT for like 10 months, 11 months, out of nowhere, actually. I don't want to say who, because they actually treated me pretty nicely, but a pretty corporate outlet just randomly reached out to me. I guess I had spoken with one of their reporters on the plane. We were traveling, covering Trump, actually. Not about a job. I was just talking to him, and I don't know, maybe he said something to them. So I got an offer to be their progressive media reporter, which I found strange that that's what they would call me, like almost like it's like this special niche thing.
Right.
If you need a progressive news reporter, you're not so progressive. Anyway.
This is a very well-known, you guys all know what this thing is.
Yeah. It's DC, very corporate and political. I mean, they offered me $165,000, and that was a lot more than I was making. And they were going to relocate me and pay for it and all those things. And I mean, it would be a lie if I said to you I didn't think about it at all. But I pretty much thought about it for about 2 minutes, because honestly, everything that I stand for, everything that I've said I stand for, would have been exposed as me just being a fraud if I would have went to this place. And I really thought about it, and like, honestly, I'm single and don't have a family. What do I really need $165,000 for right now, other than just lavishness and moving to a much better apartment, maybe buying, buying a home, all those things? Like, what do I really need that for? What is the cost of my integrity? And also, most importantly, like, I don't think that place was going to really send me to Flint or send me to the places I was sent. They wanted me to pretty much cover the rat race in like a progressive way, but they weren't, as soon as they started hearing me calling out corporations, calling out the media, the corporate media, it wasn't going to last that long. So it really wasn't a hard decision to turn it down. But really what it comes down to is you really, really have to, whether it's about politics or social justice, or if you're into whatever it is, maybe you're into sports and want to do sports media, I don't know. You got to have a vision for what it should be and what you think the coverage should look like. And you got to stick with that. And because I really, really believe in the long term, I'm going to make a lot more money doing this and doing it the right way than I would have made going to this place. And another place offered me quite a lot of money. It was unsolicited. I didn't reach out to these places. I think they saw a lot of my videos on the campaign trail were actually getting picked up and going viral on all these websites. So I was being introduced to the first time by all these other like editors at other sites. But there's just no price for integrity. I mean, listen, everybody's situation is different. So like you might be somebody watching with like 2 kids, a lot of student loan debt, and if some company came rolling with double the money and it wasn't exactly a company you think has a lot of integrity, but like you could pay off your student loan and get your kid into a better daycare, like I'm not the morality police here. So everybody's got a different situation. It doesn't make you a bad person if you sell out in a certain respect. Just speaking for myself, I just wouldn't do that. For example, I have a lot of respect for David Sirota. He's a progressive journalist. He just left Newsweek, International Business Times, which is an arm of Newsweek. He left them. He's got 2 kids, and he was openly speaking on Twitter about like the fear of like the mad dash to get his kids health insurance. Like he left at great risk to himself, but he did it because he has integrity. He doesn't want to work for Newsweek, who he came out is basically corrupt and won't let their reporters do journalism. So, everybody's different, and that's the exception to the rule. Most journalists in New York and DC are just kind of sleazy corporate ladder climbers and only care about being invited to the cocktail party and breaking something, like breaking that Steve Bannon had lunch with Jared Kushner and, whatever bullshit, Stormy Daniels. I forget what your question was. But
No, yeah, you answered it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, too, everyone watching should read This Town by Mark Leibowitz.
Oh, boy.
Because
it's a great book,
talking about the cocktail parties and all these reporters, like they all go to literal cocktail parties with the lobbyists, with the politicians. Media is just intertwined in all this.
Cesspool.
Yeah, it's a total cesspool. So yeah, read this Town, and I think that'll open eyes too. And if you truly are someone who wants to be a reporter with integrity, like that will cement it even further.
You know what else they should read? There's this book called Corporate Con Job. It's written by
I've heard
Jordan
of that
Sheridan. You could get it at patreon.com/Jordan Chariton. There are 7 chapters out. I expose what happened on the campaign trail. How the corporate media took out Bernie. Yeah. How the corporate media created Trump. How the corporate media covered up for Miss Clinton. Don't give me that email bullshit. How the corporate media ignored election fraud. How the corporate media blacked out Standing Rock, Flint. We just released Chapter 7 the other day. And Chapter 8 is all about election night, dealing with Hillary Clinton voters. And then we're going to release the Flint chapters and the East Chicago chapters. But all of the chapters, introduction, chapter 1 through 7, are now available at patreon.com/Jordan Chariton. You could do $1 per chapter. You could do $2 per chapter, $5 per chapter. You get a lot of different rewards. Last question.
And actually, it's
well,
not...
you're editing it.
Oh yeah, I'm editing the book, but it's not framed this way, but it actually gives a behind the scenes of your thought process as a journalist. So anyone interested in that, you'll learn, like, when he was at Standing Rock, it at times was very spiritual and powerful for you as a person. So you talk about having to be a journalist in those times and how you handle that. So it's
separating yourself as a human and what you're going through in your mind. I also talk about keeping it real. Like on the way down to the Democratic National Convention, my girlfriend of a year and I broke up, and I was devastated and dealing with having to be in the zone of all the corruption that was going on in Philadelphia while your heart's kind of on the floor, you know? So I try to kind of like give you a little bit of my personal experience, also explaining why and how the corporate media does what it does. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Why do you think launching Status Coup is important, our company that we're trying to launch?
Well, I think it's important because it's for the people. You've been all around the country. You've interviewed so many people who are struggling, who their stories are not being covered by these corporate outlets. There's a real need for it, a hunger for it. You saw that at TYT. You're seeing that now with your Jordan Sheridan Reports channel. And those corporate outlets saw it too because they wanted to hire you away because of those things. So it's there. People's stories are there. And that's what reporting is supposed to be. There's corruption to uncover. There are people suffering. You know, the story you're working on right now about Flint and the faulty science and the, you know, basically cover-ups going on. People are sick and dying, and that's why the story is so important. So that's what Status Coup is. It's about people. So, and it doesn't exist, which is, you know, it's shocking. So from my perspective as someone who is a marketer and on the business end and things like that, there is a definite need. This is a profitable area for a media company. So the fact that it doesn't exist is crazy.
You mean doing real journalism can be profitable?
Real journalism can be profitable.
And to be clear, and Jenn and I both feel this way, this is not going to be like Jordan Sheridan's network. This is going to be long-term an army. We have a lot of big plans for other reporters and other people. I mean, God willing, long-term, like I'd be in the back just cheering people on because there's too much corruption out there for one person. Like you should see the swelling I have in my back right now. The toll that reporting and traveling has taken on me. And you know, we're all human, you know, I can't work 24/7. And frankly, sometimes you need other voices. You know, for example, right now we have an independent reporter named Teresa Joy, who I've put on my YouTube channel. I'm going to start mixing in some other faces. We need other voices. We need other expertise, other passions. And she has areas she was covering today, like corruption with the border control. It's not an area that I tend to focus, so it's good to get other types of stories from other people. We're going to have other people on the channel, and eventually we're going to hire other reporters for Status Coup. So yeah,
like the people who are watching, if they're interested in becoming, you know, a journalist, that's it. You can start reporting on your own. You can start your own YouTube channel. You can, you know, take a look at what's happening in your own backyard and just start reporting on it. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, for my Patreon subscribers at YouTube. I have so many channels. At patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports, I do a monthly video call with my patrons, and I was thinking about one of those. I was going to just make specifically advice for getting into journalism, because I've had so many people ask me. So that I'm going to probably do that maybe in May. We'll make that one of the video calls. We do diaries every day with me. Today, you and I did a diary. I'm doing podcasts, even though you could attest to it. There is Arctic drilling going on above me in my apartment. There is construction going on.
It's very loud.
It's very fucking loud. So yeah, that's the story. Jenn, by the way, so you know, I don't know. You probably haven't taken a day off in.
Yeah,
6 months?
I don't take.
Yeah, she works every day. There's so much to do in launching a company that you have no idea about. Frankly, there's a lot to do that I don't want to do because it's not my interest.
But it matters. It's, you know, it's the mission matters, the reporting matters. So that's why. Yep.
So thank you, and we will. You'll see Jenn more often. She doesn't like going on camera, but we'll make sure.
We'll see.
Bye bye.